down in one hit, etc. Out of those 7, 4 of those are in the Batmobile. The Arkham Knight's chopper, the Cloudburst tank, the Arkham Knight's grill, and Deathstroke's tank. The Deathstroke fight hurts most of all. His inclusion in Arkham Origins is one of the game's standout moments. There, he tested all aspects of the combat system. So, along comes Arkham Knight, where after waves of tank battles, we're rewarded with another tank battle. It's a pure show when the Riddler in a mech suit is a better boss fight than the world's deadliest assassin. At the conclusion of your trilogy, where the boss fights have evolved from crap looking at you, Joker, to some of the series' best moments looking at you, Freeze, it's a real letdown that if I were to rank all of the Arkham bosses in the entire series, the bottom of that list would almost entirely be made up of Arkham Knight's big bads. Reaching the inside of Ace Chemicals, we witnessed the breadth of Scarecrow's plan. He lured us here, threatening to set off a bomb that would coat Gotham in his gas, but this was a trap. His men would take him armed forward, and this was just one big excuse for him to gas us with his new toxin. Batman quickly prepares a neutralizing agent to stop the bomb, but he and Alfred both know that it won't work. The best he can do is reduce the blast radius to Ace Chemicals. He's prepared to sacrifice his sanity to protect Gotham. I've talked about Todd King's Batman run before in these videos, so you might have guessed that I really love it, but the way it opens is really special, and it shows us how vulnerable he is where the story begins. There, he chooses to sacrifice himself as well, steering a plane into the Gotham Bay to save a part of the city. As he does, he asks Alfred, "Mother and father be proud of him, is it death?" Alfred sadly tells him that it is, and together the two friends hold their breath, preparing for Batman's end. It would be a good death. He would go down in the blaze of fire, saving the people of Gotham in a spectacular fashion befitting the name of the Caped Crusader. But this moment in Ace Chemicals, this wouldn't be a good death. This day's killed him. This would be horrible. This feels like Scarecrow's cruelty at its peak. He couldn't possibly do anything worse than this, right? Batman's mind will dissolve under the fear toxin. He'll die mad and alone in Ace Chemicals. But of course, he doesn't die. The fear toxin doesn't dissolve Batman's mind, but it does fracture it, leading to Arkham Knight's first big twist. Jason Todd absolutely walks Gotham streets, just as Bruce expected. He passes through shanty towns, crime alley, and eventually ends up outside his old apartment, one he once shared with his now dead parents. He thinks how his mother, Catherine, died of a terminal illness, of how his father was a gangster who was shot by Two-Face. As Batman watches Jason from the rooftops, he thinks once again how stupid it was to rush the boy into training school. Batman's not the only one who watches Jason, though. His family's old neighbor, Mrs. Walker, waves at the boy from the window. "You're Jason Todd, aren't you? I've got something for you." It's an old box, photographs, personal papers belonging to his parents. Jason's face lights up. He never thought he'd find a physical connection to his parents after their deaths. He doesn't know why, but he feels like this is what he's been waiting for. As he rifles through the boxes back at Wayne Manor, he finds something strange. All of his father's papers make sense. Each one is labeled correctly, Willis Todd. But his birth certificate has a smudge where his mother's name should be. All he can make out is that it starts with an S. But that can't be right, Jason thinks. His mother's name was Catherine, right? Well, wrong. It takes Jason some time to let the realization dawn on him, but he eventually accepts the truth. He never knew his real mother. He decides to find her. Batman taught him to be a detective. Using his father's address book, he finds all the names start with S. There it is. The Bat computer tells him that they're all in the Middle East and Africa. What do I do? Jason thinks. His face twists bitterly. He wouldn't care. All he gets off on is catching crooks. This job's all mine. I can't depend on anyone. He steals some of Bruce's credit cards and gets a stab of guilt. They have been kind to him, especially Alfred. But if he's going to find his real mother, this is the only way. Batman doesn't come home in time. He's been following the He tracks him to his warehouse and finds evidence of the crew's missing papers for flights to Lebanon. The Joker has a nuke. When he does return to the Batcave, Alfred is waiting for him. A farewell note from Jason in his hand. "Master Bruce," he gasps. "Jason has run away." The air fills with silence. Batman doesn't know where Jason's gone, but he wrongfully assumes he's still in Gotham. Does he stay in Gotham, live up to his responsibilities as the boy's guardian, or does he go after the madman with a weapon? He knows what he needs to do, but the choice hurts. He wonders how he'll ever be able to live with the decision.
How the hell did you guys hide Mark Hamill being in that game for so long? It is one of the greatest feats of the industry, I think, to keep that a secret until the game launched, right?
It was just as strict as that. Like, everyone on the team knew you cannot let this leak out because it's everything. Like, it's the game. It's the trilogy.
The Batmobile was everywhere in the marketing material for Arkham Knight. The gameplay trailers, the teasers, the interviews, they all focused heavily on the Batmobile. That wasn't just because it was the core attraction of Knight, but it was also because Warner Brothers' marketing team weren't allowed to talk about what would surely be Knight's biggest selling point if they advertised it. Joker returns to Arkham with a soothing chuckle at his healing hatch. Batman got a concentrated blast of Scarecrow's fear talks, and so for the rest of the game, he will hallucinate his old foe. The Clown Prince will be there every step of the way, creeping out and in of shot when we want him least, joking that we're the new dynamic duo, not here to save Gotham, but to raze it to the ground. Batman's prepared for anything, but he wasn't prepared for this. Alfred asks if we're okay, if we're feeling the side effects of the toxin. Batman lies to him, saying he's all better now. He never tells Alfred the truth. In fact, he never tells anyone the truth. He and the player are haunted by the Joker, and it's something Bruce will keep to himself, terrified of what that says about him and the legacy he might leave behind. But none of this was in the marketing, so instead, Warner Brothers had to double down on how technologically advanced Bats would feel this time around. So that's what we're going to look at. Our focus is on finding Barbara. The next hour forces the detective to come out of hiding, making the most of his gear to find her. The Batman is more high-tech than ever. Activision's basics remain the same. We can still use it to feel empowered during stealth sections, for example. But it's also been stretched, coating a lot more of the game. For example, the Batmobile comes equipped with a forensic scanner that harks back to the classicism of Arkham Asylum. We equip it and follow tracks of Gotham streets to a particular destination, slowly rumbling around the corners through tunnels. Our search for Babs is an extensive piece of gameplay, taking us to the GCPD, the Belfry, and the Harbour. While it's broken up with the stealth and a bit punching, this is really Arkham Knight's final deep breath, the investigation before the story. With Joker's arrival at the night, being let off the leash. So with that in mind, let's look at all-new, all-star technological Batman.
Come on, you're scaring me. It's Barbara. She's been taken. No. I spoke to her. She said she got out. She left hours ago. Stay calm. We'll get her back.
What feels like years ago in my Arkham Asylum critique, I find a really interesting quote from programmer Paul Denning. He told us that during prototyping, Detective Mode went through a whole host of iterations, but in the end, Rocksteady decided to make it do one thing really well, rather than bring in lots of detective stuff that was only surface level. Arkham Knight adopts a kitchen sink approach. Breadth is the focus, not depth. Feeling like the world's greatest detective is all about variety this time, with a Batcave's worth of unique scenarios that hardly ever repeat themselves. Using the sonic batarang to identify hostages, isolating Man-Bat's DNA, scanning Azrael's memories, the deep tissue scanner, monitoring routes underground, deactivating bombs, aligning satellite dishes, analyzing CCTV footage, recreating crime scenes. It's all here to showcase Batman's technical acumen at this point in his career and keep things fresh. The deep tissue scanner used in Professor Pig's side quest doesn't add complexity. We're still hunting for the front of the thing, but
this is a strange and mysterious phenomenon observed in chickens. When a line is drawn on the ground starting from the beak and extending straight in front of the chicken enters a state of magnetic hypnosis and becomes unable to move. If the chicken is hypnotized in this way, it will continue to stare at the line and remain still for a duration of up to 30 minutes. There's no precise explanation for this phenomenon. This hypnosis is not harmful to the chicken, and usually the chicken snaps out of the magnetic hypnosis when the line is erased in front of it. Watch what happens when a line is drawn in front of this chicken. This is a strange and mysterious phenomenon observed in chickens. When a line is drawn in front of this chicken. This is a strange and mysterious phenomenon observed in chickens. When a lion...
There's an extra layer to our hunt. We physically need to search a body for scars and injuries. The CCTV recreations force us to witness a sequence of events play out to detect what happened, tracking someone or using a mirror to piece together fingerprints to a keypad. We even get to reconstruct a crime scene, a personal highlight from Arkham Origins. Bats learns that Oracle was taken in the Arkham Knight's transport, so we need to use the CCTV, the forensic scanner, and the reconstruction tech to track it down. Investigation might not have mechanical challenge that gets deeper the further into the story we go, but what it does do is lay out a sequence of events that can actually be identified as the...
It's overrated, son.
detective work rather than yet like in past.
God always get the blame for everything. God doesn't do it. We do it to ourselves. You gotta remember, you are not a body. You have a body. This is just a costume, a suit of clothes you're wearing right now to play this part. Earth is nothing but a school. You go through the different grades and learn lessons in order to progress onward. But one of the major things with this school on Earth is when you come in, the veil comes down and you forget your plan. You forget your connections. You come here, you come prepared to really learn a lot. It is very, very difficult. Not everybody chooses to come here. It's got
games.
We gotta do this shit again. So all I ever say is this. So we gotta do this shit again. Nobody tell me, and nobody hit the guy get emotional. Why the fuck I don't? That's my son. Fucking that's fine. You can do that. You don't know what I want to do that. You don't do that. I'm a man over this motherfucker. Exactly. I made 30 some motherfucking years. Yeah, I agree with you. 30 some fucking years. I agree with you. You ain't got no motherfucking attention. Yeah. Nobody tell me to calm my ass down. I agree. Fuck everybody tell me to calm down.
The Belfry is more barb.
Look, now I'm gonna block him in.
Domain the Batman's the slick transition from
Gotcha, bitch.
clock tower to super fortress is A, really cool, I mean look at this, and B, an obvious indicator that Knight's Batman is high tech, as if since Joker's passing, he's doubled down on the gadgetry, on the planning, desperately pulling his resources so he can be better. Prepared.
I think a lot of women like pick up the phone at 6 o'clock goes, oh, gotcha. I fucking gotcha, ain't I? I said, Charlie. He goes, hello, mate. How you doing? No, I'm good. He goes, what's going on? I thought, and I just split up and I go, that time and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to beat around the bush. I'm just going to fucking tell him straight because I'll play the ice. He goes, Tom. But yeah. He goes, did you do you remember the floods? Oxford. Yeah, the floods. Do you remember the floods? Yeah. Do you remember that boy who got his foot stuck in the grate and the river kept rising? And it kept rising. It kept rising, and eventually they tried to get him out, but he drowned. Yeah. Well, that wouldn't have happened to me. Right? But you know why? Yeah, sure it was. Because I'd have said, cut it off. Nah. What I'm trying to say is, man, is sometimes, yeah, you've got to cut a little piece of yourself off, yeah, no matter how much it hurts, in order to grow, yeah, in order to move on.
Arkham City happens again. His suit is armor plated now. New up.
Did you let him slip it?
By accident.
I make too much money to let that shit happen.
How much money do you, how much money you make?
30,000 a year.
How much?
30,000 a year.
How much money you make at the end of the year?
I make 14,000 a month.
I'm not impressed.
I didn't ask you figures, but I told you how much I make.
Good for you.
How do you make that in a month?
I sell solar.
Solar?
Solar, yeah.
So you make 14 grand a month?
Yes.
Did you let him slip it?
Grades fall from the sky like gifts from the gods.
I didn't see that, try to erase my memory. Alright, it's gone.
Parts of the city have been mechanized with secret garages for the Batmobile and a gadget pod at Wayne headquarters. Focusing on the Belfry, I don't believe Arkham's version always looked like this. I get the feeling that after the Joker died, Bats gave Babs an upgrade. It's in here that Batman's guild starts to bubble and overflow, but he's not alone. He and Jim Gordon come here to look for Barbara. Jim beats himself up, thinking the Scarecrow must have taken Babs to get to him, the same way Joker did years ago when he shot and paralyzed her, like in Alan Moore's famous story, The Killing Joke.
Don't pass out just yet. Come on. You're a spy.
In that story, Joker's attack was purely an attempt to twist and corrupt Jim Gordon. He wanted to give him one bad day to show that anyone could go a little mad. Batman's involvement was secondary. Joker wasn't a character who cares who Bats is under the cowl. That might have been his motivation once, but those days are long gone. In that story, Barbara is shot in the stomach and stripped naked, lying helplessly while Joker takes pictures of her to torture Jim. It's arguably the worst thing he's ever done. Prior to Arkham Knight, it was inferred that this happened, but it's in this game under a cloud of fear toxin that we see Rocksteady's hallucination. This is key for a couple of reasons. The first is see how messed up Arkham was before the events of Arkham Asylum. In all of the Arkham games, even in Origins, he's sinister and evil, but he's also camp and at times legitimately insane. Some of his jokes are honestly funny, but then they're getting me every time. So Rocksteady need to be explicit. Yes, Joker is in this game. Yes, he's as charismatic as ever. Yes, at times he even roots for us, but we should be afraid of him. Just look at what he did in his prime. Even better, the game simulates that fear. It's not predetermined how long we'll be in this room, alone with a terrified, traumatized Barbara Gordon. In fact, the game tracks how many buttons we press as we desperately try to find a way out. We literally need to show the game we're confused and concerned about how to leave here before the vision peels away. As always, Rocksteady's Batman doesn't verbally acknowledge the pain he's in, but the player's actions do all the talking for him. Jim Gordon is vocal enough for the two of them, and in a really somber moment of the series, Batman opens up to him. He reveals Barbara's secret, her alter ego as Oracle.
She works for you. This is all your fault. I will find her. She's my family. My daughter. She's all I've got. I never should have trusted you. Never.
God damn, this is bleak. But not as bleak as the upgrades in the UI. Well, okay, fine. Bleak's a little strong. It makes me sound like that guy from the Daily Wire had a good long try when Jonathan Kent came out this game. But I hammered on the presentation changes in Arkham Origins, and I'd be a hypocrite if I held back with Arkham Knight. See this scene from Arkham Asylum? See how it transforms the main menu into a drawing, making you think of the comic books that Batman was born from? What about this screen in Arkham City? Look how gorgeous this sketch view is. Well, say goodbye to all that. This is next-gen Batman, baby. You're here to bask in the futurism and the gadgetry. The screen no longer carves itself into a comic book page, it transforms into a blurred photograph to remind you how sexy and hyper-realistic all this looks. Next gen is here. The front of your controller lights up different colors now. Ooh, now it's hardly something to get annoyed about. After all, this cold, clinical, digitized look does remind us that we're playing as a Batman at the peak and end of his career. He's prepared for anything, thematically it fits. But that doesn't mean I have to like it, or the downgrading numbers bullshit that flashes up on the left-hand side of the screen after a fight. Overall, the screen isn't as busy or obnoxious as Origins was. That game wouldn't shut its gap. Sometimes it was so overflowing with icons that it looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. But it's still here, and we still can't turn it off. Thankfully, Rocksteady haven't brought over the god-awful Dark Knight system that Origins used to lock off certain upgrades behind particular sets of challenges. But our upgrades are still locked into a tree-like system. Some upgrades will cost numerous skill points, capping at 8. Others will just cost a couple, and they're broken down into different sets, like the Batmobile, the Batsuit, combat, etc. It's a personal thing. I know some of you might love the tech tree system. It gives you a gradual progression after all. I'm a much bigger fan of cherry picking. Because of the tree metaphor, example. If I want to unlock the desired story ability that's typical trickier fights, I need to buy critical strikes, multi-grab takedown, and 11 is I wanted that one upgrade. You can earn skill points for fighting if you achieve a decent free-flow combo or for finding Riddler trophies, but the experience you get is much less than Batman retired without reaching his peak. The economy is kind of broken. Oracle of Venus scrambler devices use encrypted data so I can pinpoint the architecture.
This kind of thing was always full of discussion to me.
Our hunt for Barbara leads us to a scrambler that she left behind for us to find. You might be able to tell us where she is, but for that to happen, we need to lean on our old pal, Lucius Fox. He needs some time to decrypt it, he says. So, while he does, let's look at the last element of our high-tech. There are 11 this kind of thing. On paper, that's less than Arkham City, but they become multifaceted, so each one is impactful and versatile. For example, the previous claim cluster become quite disruptive. From my death, now to just one gizmo. That's right, pops out the window to replace the never-ending system design. The
Well, get the fuck out of here.
I'll talk about them a lot more when we turn to stealth, but while we're looking at them purely as gadgets, Brad fucking Bogo instead is serious. Almost all of the gadgets in Night simultaneously build a better hero and open up the world, a measure we've used for assessing a lot of these are carryovers from Arkham City. Just look how cool this is. Just look at the remote action too. Look at it. The portal mechanics are still here, but they've been reduced substantially. Now, the criminal shooter has a new name and a whole host of eccentric guns go flying, turning against bad guys, and unlocks areas and powers Batman. So, he doesn't just need to be a stealthy assassin anymore. Are you prepared to die? I'll show you a real fight. You can distract enemies and open up multiple areas. Find these to transform a classic Predator arena into some of Watchdog's
Yes.
Terrifying presence. It's a stuff the phrase feel like Batman was made for. But the mapping makes using gadgets feel more sluggish than in other games, as mainly because a lot of the buttons have been remapped because of the inclusion of the map. Detective vision is no longer a bumper button, it's now a directional button. Because of that, the gadgets can't be mapped to the directional buttons anymore. Instead, they're in a wheel that forces the world to pause while we slow on to our next weapon.
Looks like we got ourselves a
specific issue for all you PC players. It won't be a problem, but here's the issue. Disaster. It's a catch-22 for whoever the hell had to configure this. I don't tend to at all. Anyway, Lucius, are you done scrambling that scrambler?
Oh well, must have run off. This better be good.
Within a day, Batman makes it to London. He tracks the military plane that Joker hijacked, learns he's meeting with someone called Peter Brando, and sees that the missile is leaking. If Joker's not careful, he's going to bring up radiation poisoning. Batman quickly thinks that he should be so lucky. He's struggling to concentrate on the job. His thoughts keep wandering back to Jason. Through tracing the use of credit cards, Alfred tells him Jason is on a flight to Israel. That's only a short flight away from here. If he can stop Joker fast enough,
I'll show you what a real
he follows fear and surprise. They don't even know a Batman exists. She terrifies them more than others.
Simon.
His name is Brando. Peter Brando. Meanwhile, Jason has made it to the room himself. He's here to track down the first woman on his list, Charmin Rose, an agent of the Israeli Secret Service. He's down beside the hotel window and thinks about what he'll say when he meets his mother. His feet won't let him move. He's terrified. What are you doing here? Bruce barks, grabbing Jason and pulling him into an alleyway. I'm looking for my mother, he says. He explains everything. The box of photographs and papers, ghostly women.
Look at you. Looks like we got ourselves a hero.
Bad time to get lost.
But with you here to help him. Unaware of how much he was. Joker has a nuclear missile. I have to deal with that first. Like we're working on the same case after all, Jason wins. The Halloween of 2015 is the blackest night Gotham has ever seen. Blacker than the War of Jokes and Riddles, blacker than the Gotham Cold War, blacker even than the night of 1993 when Bane released all of the inmates of Arkham Asylum to break the Batman. Scarecrow has united many of the Bat's greatest Two-Face has the banks, Firefly has the fire stations, Riddler has the orphanage, Penguin has the warehouses, and Bat has the skies. Because in the context of this being Batman's last night, we know every side quest is an unspoken morality associated with it. It's Bruce's final say on what his legacy will be, what their memory of him will be, and his last chance to set the world back to zero, so that Gotham will wake up tomorrow and start to rebuild. If we include the DLC missions, there are most important missions today, so bringing the criminal mastermind back to the GCPD1, with the further forward, let's fight the dark isolation and horizon ways. Interestingly, a lot of the side quests that let us tackle these villains have a connection to the overarching legal legacy and lends attention to Batman's history. But just like in the other games, not all created equal, so... As the quests begin, that's the whole flames. Dark days are here, he says. Hard things come true. According to the order of St. Bob, we are faithful to God. Azrael wants to go the mantle back. Batman tests him to see if he's worthy. Their combat challenge maps were beginning.